Thank you so much, everybody, for joining the webinar today. So welcome to the Study Melbourne Career Catalyst delivered by Intern Match. I work at Intern Match, and I'm so happy to meet you all today. And we're going to be talking about how you could ace your interview. We're going to be looking at how you could build your confidence and interview skills in this 1 hour interview workshop. So let's directly get into it. But before we start, I would do the acknowledgement of country. I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. So let's build in. Now, I know that you can't, you can't sort of use the chat box, but how do you feel when you go for an interview? You can probably use the Q&A box and tell me in one word, what it is that you feel before you go for an interview. Karima, Yvette, maybe, I've seen your names out here. So can you share and tell me, how do you feel when you go for an interview? Nervous? You're stressed? All right. Okay. What else? Well, that's that's a very normal answer. That's a very normal feel. We all feel stressed. We all feel nervous. There's anxiety in the air, and I get it, right? So we're going to decode that today. We're going to talk about what you can do and what you can't do, and some tips and tricks on how it's going to be important when you actually go for an interview. So let's begin. My name is Gwyneth. That's how you spell my name. That's Gwyneth. I am on LinkedIn, so happy to connect with each and every one of you. Do send me a LinkedIn request. It is Gwyneth Pereira. That's my name. I am the Client Success Manager at Intern Match. Now, I will tell you about what this role is and what I do in a couple of slides from now. But what we're going to essentially cover today is we're going to talk about pre-interview. What happens before you go for an interview, the personal pitch that you could give, the research that you need to take care of, and answering a couple of questions. We're going to be talking about what happens on the day of the interview. What are the pre-interview rituals, if you want to say, presenting yourself, the who, what, where, and when, and some sort of body language, which is, I think, very important. And last but not the least, some final tips and tricks and questions that would sort of ace your interview skills. So let's go straight into it. And part one is the pre-interview. So what exactly happens before you go for an interview? Now, we're going to be dividing this into 3 sections. One is defining your personal pitch. The second is the research that you will be doing. And third is answering interview questions, which is, of course, the most crucial part of it all. Hey, so at any given point in time, please feel free to take a picture of these slides. This is also going to be put up on YouTube for you to go and watch it later. So, you have it with you whenever you want it. I'll also highly recommend to keep a piece of paper or maybe a notebook beside you with a pen. So keep writing things down so that you don't forget. I always believe in writing things down so that you could go back and see it tomorrow or day after tomorrow or wherever it is that you will need. So keep writing it down, make your doodles, make your own diagrams, make your own graph charts, because it's only going to be useful for you in the long run. So what is personal pitch? Now let's deeply get into it. Now, the importance of a great pitch. Now, before, we get into the very funny, the very glamorous definition of it, what is a personal pitch? Now, if you ask me, it is your bragging rights. It is your opportunity to tell someone about yourself. Talk about yourself, sell yourself. It's your opportunity to summarize your background, to summarize the experience that you've had so far. Take the time to convince the opposite person or to convince a recruiter why you're the right person for the job. A great personal pitch is also something that could be used as a confidence booster. Use it for networking events, use it at career fairs. So if you don't have one, or if you haven't thought about it, now is the time to action on it. Now is the time to think about it, guys, because you will be surprised to see the amount of times you get to use your personal pitch, right? This should be your go-to mantra. This should be your go-to for any time you have, you're put in the spot. Maybe tomorrow at work, somebody, like you have a new colleague and your manager says like, all right, Gwen, why don't you talk about yourself? That's when you have your personal pitch. That's also not one of the reasons, but you could use it for networking events. You could use it for Career phase. So it's basically your bragging rights. Everybody loves to brag about the things that they do, the things that they've achieved. And, sometimes while just talking about it can seem to be a tad bit rude. But this time, this is not how it's going to be like. It's something that you are expected to talk about. So look at it as bragging rights that you could use for, the rest of your life. So a well prepared and confident pitch can establish your credibility as a business person and an expert in your field. Now, it shows that you've done your research, you're passionate about what you're going to be talking about, you're passionate about your work, and also the contribution that you will make. Now, it can be glossy, like I said. It's a very, it's a very high definition of what a personal pitch is all about. So let's break that down for you. Let's look at how can you make your pitch. So this is some of the key points that you could actually take. So highly recommend for you to take a picture or write it on your notepad at the moment as we speak. So you talk about where you study, where you work, or what you do. You talk about your goals. You talk about what you do outside of your work. You share your name. Now, necessarily not in the same order, but it's good to start with your name. Good to start with your name, good to start about the current thing that you're doing, what you've done in the past. You talk about your goals and what you like to do in your free time. You got to keep it short and sweet. Keep it between 45 seconds to a minute. Say it positively, and say it with enthusiasm. Right? So these are a good starting points to basically make your own pitch. Now, I know it can be daunting. It's scary. It's like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to be talking about. So I have an example for you on how you could break this down in the next slide, and I'm going to show it to you right now. This is what I would do, right? So when I'm going to share my name, I'm like, hi, I'm Gwyneth. I lead the client success team at Intern Match, where I implement strategies for customer retention. I aim to lead a marketing team at a top Australian e-commerce brand anytime soon. I love reading, blogging, traveling, and scuba diving. Right. So this would be my idea or my way of saying a personal pitch. Like I would talk about who I am. I would talk about what I do. I would talk about what my aim is and the things that I do outside of work, because that's also important, right? Remember this phrase when we were growing up, we learned this in school: all work and no play make Jack a dull boy. That's pretty much what it is. It's not generally always work, or like what you do at work or the things that you've studied. It's also what you like doing outside of work. What do you like doing on a weekend? So that's pretty much, how your personal pitches should be like. Now, I've also broken down it for you in this way. Now, what you can also do over here is you can also use the career summary on your resume. That could be a key takeaway for you at this point in time to make your personal pitch. It's highly important to have one. Like I said, you could use it when you go to a networking event. Say, for example, if you go to a networking event, meet a person and you'll be like, hi, I'm Gwyneth. I'm a marketing enthusiast with over 6 years of experience in brand and market strategy. Throughout my career, marketing communications has been the focal point of my work. So, not necessarily, you need to always talk about work, but you can also say like the last sentence in my paragraph, like, I look forward to adding value to a business. I thrive on challenges and a large almond latte. So that's good. Like, one conversation can lead to another, and that person will be like, oh, you do a lot of marketing communications. What have you worked with? And then you can be like, I have implemented marketing campaigns for some of Australia's major fashion retail stores. So this way, it's a good confidence booster for yourself. You can use it for networking and career phase. And basically, you just talk about you. Okay. Focus on the past, present, and future. Keep it under 1 minute if possible, because you don't want to be yappity yap and just talk about yourself all the time. Start with the relevant professional and educational background, slowly divulging into current and previous career options that you've had and the achievements and skills that you've obtained, and cover what you're looking for next. Right. So talk about, I want to use the best of my skills to the best of my abilities. I want to make the most of what I've learned. I want to add value. Right. So talk about these important points. Keep it short, keep it simple, keep it sweet, and keep it just within 45 to 1 minute, because obviously you don't want to bore the other person. Right. Not necessarily that they would get bored, but you also don't want to be somebody who talks more and listens less. So it is a nice starter. And this is your way of making your personal pitch. Now, in case if you don't really know what to do, and this is how I'm sharing a very personal example of how I came across or how I made my personal pitch. I really didn't know how to start. I really didn't know what to speak about. I really didn't know what I should say, whether it's saying too much or saying too less. And you have to find that sweet spot right in between. So one fine day on an evening, I took a notebook, I took a pen, and I just started writing, like journaling, right? I'm not sure how many of you out here love journaling or love the idea of wanting to journal, but I just started writing. I aimlessly started writing things. I wrote till I could write no more, right? I wrote about the things that I like doing. I wrote about the future that I want to have in a field and in a profession in marketing. And when I looked at my paper and I just, then started underlining all the important lines, everything that I wrote, I must have probably written about 2.5 pages long of content, and I started underlining everything. And when I put things together and I, refined it a little bit, tweaked it here and there, this is where my personal pitch came up. So it's a good meditation activity if you want to ask me. But in case if you never journal and you want to journal, or even if you're confused about how to sort of make a personal pitch, I will highly recommend this method. I have gone ahead and spoken to a lot of my juniors at work, people who report to me, my friends, my colleagues. They've all gone ahead and they've tried this method, and they've come back and thanked me because they've actually made a personal pitch just by doing this. So as simple as it, sit down, clear your mind, take a piece of paper or a notebook and just start scribbling. Write anything that comes to yourself. Believe me, guys, once you've got that, you will read it and you will find that that's where your personal pitch lies. Right. So please go for it, go and do it, and let me know how it goes. Moving on. Research. Now, what do we have here for you when we talk about researching before you go for an interview? I absolutely love this line. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? Let that sink in. So, what we basically are trying to say out here is the best way to kick off your interview preparation is to immerse yourself in research around the host company and their industry. Know what the company is all about, know which industry they belong to. Obviously, you would have some idea, that's why you've gone and applied for it. But there's a lot more to that. Do you know when it was founded? Do you know how long has it been in the world? Do you know who was their first CEO? Do you know where the headquarters are? That's just so much to know about than just the name of the company, isn't it? So when you do that research, when you sort of get acquainted with that knowledge, you feel a lot more confident, a lot more comfortable when you go into an interview, because you know about that company, you know exactly where it's founded, you know where the headquarters are, you know who the CEO is, you know the mission, the values, the goals of the company. And it's just not there on a website just for no reason, right? It is for us when we want to go and actually secure a job there. You need to know where you're working apart from just the name. So doing a good research is highly recommended before you go for an interview. Now, this is again a little breakdown of what information you should delve into. Now, let's look at it point by point. Let's look at first the company. Now, what does the company do? Find out what the company does. Like, say, for example, if you go to a fashion brand, you go to Country Road, and Country Road sells fast forward fashion retail items. But is there something else that it does? Go and find out. What is the history? How long have they been around? What is the key product or the services? Who might their competitors be? And that could be for anything, not just a fashion brand. It could be for anything. No matter who the company is, it will always have some sort of background story behind it. Go and find who the hiring manager is all about. Who is the hiring manager or the people interviewing you? What is the role at their company? What is their expertise and the experience? Find out the industry that the company is. What is the whole industry? Is it e-commerce? Is it fashion? Is it retail? Is it into banking? What is the industry? What are the recent developments? Have there been any changes? Has there been a change in management? Has there been some sort of grant that they've received? Who are the biggest players? Who are these players? Where are they located? And last but not the least, the most important part is your role. What is the role that you're interviewing for? What are the main responsibilities? Where are your strengths? Are your strengths aligning with what the role is trying to get? What are your weaknesses when it comes to this role? Like, can you do this? Can you not do this? So This is a good thing to research. Spend some time because research will highly be helpful. In the end, you don't want surprises, right? No surprises. So if you don't really want that and things to go downhill, this is probably the best thing to do, is to go and research. Now, where do you get this information? Plenty of places. One, LinkedIn. All right, go on LinkedIn. Go on LinkedIn. There's an About Me section on LinkedIn, which basically talks about the company. Have a read through. And it is going to be a very small paragraph, guys, because LinkedIn has a certain word limit. It won't go more than that. So as a result, it's easy to read. It is a max 4 to 5 minute read. It won't take you more than that. So skim through it, take a quick squiz, look at it. So you'll get all the information that is on this slide on that little about section on LinkedIn. If not, go on to the website. That way you'll understand how big the company is as well. Now there are some names, like if you want to go and apply for, say, Amazon, you're going to want to apply for Netflix, for Disney Plus Hotstar. Well, everybody knows, right? We all know the company, everybody is heard. But what about the smaller brands that you go for? So when you go on a website, you'll also see if the company is authentic, if the company has updated their website, if it's a well-to-do brand, right? So it's a good thing to research before you get into it, so that there are no surprises on the day, or even worst, nightmare on the day of your job. You don't want something to happen on the day you go to the job and see that, oh my God, I should have done my research, I didn't know. That's the biggest nightmare, and we want to avoid that at all, by and at any cost. So having done this research is going to be super helpful to you, because you understand who the company is, you understand the industry, your role in specific, so you're super well prepared, as well as who the hiring manager. Now I'll give you a very crazy example of this. I remember once when I'd gone for an interview and I did this research, I found out who the hiring manager was. I went and I checked his LinkedIn profile. I saw the last 3 posts that he's updated. And when I went for the interview, weirdly, I answered everything that he asked me. And we still had some time. And there was this moment of an awkward silence between the interviewer and me, right? Like suddenly we were quiet because we ran out of topics to talk about. I answered everything that he asked me to. He answered all the questions that I asked him to. And we were struggling to find a way to sort of, go ahead with the conversation and to probably prolong it to complete the duration that we had the whole interview scheduled for. And immediately I remembered the 3 posts that he put up on his LinkedIn. Okay, like he was the one who actually went and put those up. And I was like, hey, I checked your LinkedIn profile before meeting you because I wanted to know who I was meeting. And I saw that your latest LinkedIn profile had a lot of insights and a lot of, value to it. I loved the way you articulated things. I loved your thought process behind it. Could you talk to me a little bit more and tell me the inspiration behind it? And he was so happy. He was so happy. He actually went ahead and told me that, Gwen, I have not met anybody who has ever come and said this. He said that he's had like multiple interviews throughout the day, throughout the week, and he's met like more than 50 people, right? But not a single person spoke to him about this. He was so impressed. Okay, that's a different story that I did get the job, but that was not one of the reasons why I got the job. But he was so impressed. And throughout the entire time, now he was not my direct reporting manager, but the entire time that I was working in the company, every time he met me, he knew who I was. He had a smile on his face. He greeted me with my name, because I created that first everlasting impression just simply by doing my research. So you get what I mean? That's the power of it. You really never know when it's going to come in handy, right? If I hadn't done my research, if I hadn't looked at those sports, I wouldn't have had anything to talk about. I would just probably be any random candidate that he spoke to, who just came, answered questions, said that they know this, they know that, and they just like probably went away. But because I showed him that I am capable of doing research and that I'm interested to do research, and I go above and beyond what a normal generic person would do, that created that impression. So that's the beauty and the power of it. So go and embrace it. It's a highly recommended thing, and that's one of my personal favorite examples that I would like to share with you. Now, we've already broken this down to you, but in case, just a quick recap, know what the company does, the key takeaways from the vision and mission statements. You will again get this on the website. What the history is, how long they've been around, what are the key products and services, who might the competitors be. Now, When there's a time when you go and you sort of are in an interview, and the interviewer will always ask you, do you have any questions for us? More often than not, we go back just saying, no, we don't have any questions, not really, not right now. I would highly recommend to not do that. Ask questions. That way, A, it shows that you're keen and eager to know more. B, you're invested, you are confident about investing your time in a company. That's the reason why you want to know more. And C, it's a good way to hold a conversation. So these are the three important things why it's always, always, always good to ask questions. Now you're going to be asking me, what do I ask? Worry not, I've got 4 questions here for you. Ask them, what do you enjoy most about working here? What would a typical day look like, for my role here? Can you tell me a little bit more about the work culture? That's my favorite. Everybody wants to know work culture, right? Again, nightmare. You don't want to go on your first day and see that the work culture is just the opposite, or like, oh, I didn't know that it was a hybrid model, right? You don't want surprises. You don't want nightmares on the day of your job or the first week of your job. So ask them, tell me a little bit about the work culture. You have no idea how impressed the interviewer would be, right? When can I hear from you next? Keep that towards the last. But these are the questions that you could ask. You could in fact even ask the interviewer, why do you enjoy working here so much? Like, what do you enjoy the most? And you'll be surprised to see the kind of answers the interviewer will be giving you, right? He would possibly talk about because the work culture is really nice, or he could talk about because the benefits are great, or he could talk about there's a lot to learn and a lot to a lot of things that we could add value on. So multiple things that could basically help you to understand more about the company. So these are some of the 4 questions that we have listed down for you to sort of ask, and it's okay to ask. I would highly recommend to ask. Moving on. Now we've completed your personal pitch. Like I said, it's an opportunity to talk about yourself, bragging rights. So go for it. No harm done there. Research, always, always, always research. Now third, answering interview questions. Let's look at this. Now, these are some of the common interview questions to prepare for. What made you apply for this role? What interests you about it? Like the industry you studied, whether you studied marketing, you studied accounting, you studied banking, any other industry for that matter. Tell us, tell us about your time at, probably XYZ where you worked. If you do not have work experience, they'll probably tell us about your time at the University of Melbourne or the Monash University, any other university, or if you have prior work experience overseas, they could possibly even ask you that. What interests you about a company, which is why I said research. Now, when you research, you will find certain things that will tie up and will be in sync with what interests you about a company, right? So talk about that. What are your strengths? What are your greatest strengths? What are some of your weaknesses? It is good to have weaknesses, guys. So do not really shy down from saying that. Say that, okay, my weaknesses probably be like, I tend to spend a lot of time at work. I don't have a personal life balance. I'm probably planning to, I'm working on that. So whatever your weaknesses are, it's okay to talk about it, but then give a little solution to it. Say like, okay, my weakness is that I don't know, when to clock off, but I am working on it, right? So those will be, that will be a nice way to say like you're aware of the weaknesses you have, but you're also doing something about it. You're not just sitting and being like, oh, this is my weakness and that's fine. No, that's not how it's going to be. What do you hope to gain from this role? Again, very important question. So be well prepared for that. How would your peers describe you? So please take a screenshot of this slide because these are some of the most common interview questions, and it's good to have answers for this rather than being put on the spot where you would not sort of know what to say, right? So highly recommend to get yourself prepared because not just necessarily in this manner, they would probably twist and turn the questions like, what are your greatest strengths and how do you think this aligns with the goals of the company? Now you've researched the goals of the company, you know about the strengths, you can mix these two together and that's where your answer is, right? Even if you don't know your strengths, or probably you're like, oh, I'm not quite sure. When you read about the company and say that the company is into, who loves having people with analytical skills, logical skills, add that. You are somebody who can do that. So by doing this, I will add to the company's mission. So these are the nice ways to sort of, tie up your answers together so that you could create a first lasting impression. Answering questions, interview questions. Now we have a beautiful method called as the STAR method. Basically, it sort of breaks down in terms of how you could answer a question that is thrown at you in the interview. So S is for setting the situation. T is for describing your task and the involvement. A is for, sharing an action that you took, and R is for discussing the results. So basically, we're going to break this down into these four alphabets, and the STAR method is a great way to answer any interview questions. So let's dig deep into it now. So here's an example of how do you use this method. Now, tell us about a time you used a problem solving attitude. Now, this is an example that has personally happened to me when I was getting interviewed at one of the places that I had applied for a couple of years ago. And I, used that example to show you all how you could use this method and crack this question. So here's what you could do. Now, S is for a situation. Say that while I was interning at, say, InternMatch, we were understaffed due to COVID and we had a critical project that needed to be finalized. S is what the situation is all about. Simple, right? I was working here. The problem is we were understaffed due to COVID and we had a very important project that needed to be finished. So this is the situation. Set the drama, set the scenes right. T is for the task that we were supposed to perform. Now, in order to help my manager achieve the deadline, I volunteered to assist with this project in addition to my own regular work with no leniency on the deadline. So what did I do? I knew that we were understaffed. I knew that there was an important project to get done. So what I did, I went back to my manager and said that, hey, you know what? I have some bandwidth, I have some capacity. Can I volunteer to help to get this project up and running? I know that there is no staff members, but I'm ready to stretch myself, pull myself, do whatever it takes to, sort of be of some use if that's what the project would need to get it up and running. Right? So that's your task. Now, what did I do? I went and I said, okay, this is the plan that I have. How did I action on it? Now, to meet the project deadline, I developed and automated a vital process by using software programs, including Excel, to complete the tasks that would have usually been undertaken by staff members. Simple. I used a software tool, I used a software program, I included Excel, and I sort of, got all the tasks together. I sort of lined it in order in timelines. Okay, today we'll do this, after this happens this, after this happens that, and making a time frame of what needs to get done, who can do what. And that would have usually taken a lot of time by other staff members, and I went ahead and I sort of put it in a whole flow chart. And the result is not only the project that was delivered on time, but the automation I developed is now a part of the regular process. So what happened was, because of the whole chart, because of the whole diagram, because of the whole Gantt chart, I don't know if anybody of you is familiar with the word called Gantt chart. Because of that, we realized that the project that would generally take about like 3 weeks to complete with like 7 people can actually be completed in 5 days with just one person. Right? So that's how it worked. That's how things got up and running, and things just sort of like moved and streamlined quicker and faster in a situation where the office was understaffed with people falling sick in COVID. Right? So this saved time, this saved resources, and it's a chart now that's been used by everybody if they want to get work done really quicker. So this is a classic example of the STAR method, where you have a situation, you have the task at hand, you have the action that was taken, and the final result. So you could use this to sort of, get your answering questions. Sorry, I'm not quite sure what really happened out here, but looks like I went back to the previous slide. Kind of sort of always happens. Apologies for that. I guess we were here. Okay. All right. So now that's part 1 done of pre-interviews. That's all that you needed to sort of know what do you do before you go for an interview, right? So prepare your personal pitch, which should be 45 seconds to 1 minute long. Do your research And then there are those questions that I gave you. Sort of think over it, write your answers down, go and prepare yourself with what you will answer, and use the STAR method to sort of crack those questions. Now, the most important, and I love this part about it, part two, day of the interview. So we have already reached part two, what happens on the day you go for an interview. Now, four things to clearly remember. One is when you're presenting yourself, how would you present yourself? The body language, who, what, where, when. We'll dive into that as well. And pre-interview rituals, right? Let's look at it from the top again. So who, what, where, and when. Now, know your interview details. Very important. What date and time is your interview? You don't want to miss it. You don't want to go late. You don't want to forget about it, right? So put it up on your Google Calendar. Remember what date and time is your interview. More often than not, you always notice that interviews have been booked about a month or a week in advance, right? So you're just going to wait till the time of your interview. High chances that you may forget about it. So remember the date and time of your interview. Where is your interview taking place? Okay, how far is it from your home? How long do you need to allow to go to your interview yourself? Are you going by the tram? Are you driving yourself there? Are you taking a public transport? Are you going by train? Are you going by bus? How long is it going to take, right? You don't want to be late. You don't want to be too early. You want to be perfect on time, just probably 15-20 minutes ahead of time. So know how long is it going to take. Take a look at Google Maps, see how the best route is available for you to get there. Do you have a quiet space or enough travel time allocated? Basically, again, like what I just said, do you have enough time to get from A to B, right? A is your starting point, B is obviously the interview point. And what is the interview format? Who are you meeting with? Very important to know. You just don't want to end up going there and being like, oh, I don't really know who I'm meeting with, right? So it's always good to check with your interviewer, like, am I meeting you or am I meeting someone else? Because more often than not, you would have the HR who would set the meeting up, but you would probably not meet the HR, you would probably meet your reporting manager. So it's very important to know these details. You don't want to avoid being late, you don't want to avoid missing it, you don't want to forget about it. Again, nightmare, right? Imagine if you have forgotten to go for an interview. How crazy would that be? And mind you, I've had a lot of friends who've actually forgotten to go for an interview, right? And then unfortunately, they didn't get another chance. So remember these things, know your interview details, put it up on your Google Calendar so that you have reminders, put it up probably a day or two, so that you have reminders that, oh, I have an interview in 3 days, just in case if, it's been booked way in advance or you've got multiple interviews happening, you don't want to miss out on any. The night before, I love this part. So to help manage your nerves, now a lot of you said that, you're nervous, you're stressed, obviously there is a lot of anxiety in the air, and a lot of us would face that, right? No matter how long are you in your professional journey, every time you think of an interview, you're always like scared. Am I presenting myself correctly? Am I talking the right things? Am I saying the right things? All of that. So the night before, to help manage your nerves, it's super important to get a good night's rest, right? Go to bed early, switch off, and get that wind down time. No phones, probably after 9:30 in the night. Put it away. No doom scrolling, nothing negative. Do not watch any negative content. Just keep it positive, keep it calm, be in that Zen mode, right? Plan your outfit the previous day, iron your clothes, wash them if it's needed, get your hair washed if it's needed, press it, whatever you need to do before you're ready to go. Get all these things done. Prepare yourself, get your makeup out, get your accessories out, your bag, your folder, everything that you need. Your phone should be well charged. All of it should be kept ready. You do not want to get up in the morning if your interview is at 8 o'clock and you're like struggling by 7:30. I don't know what to wear. No, that should not be the case. So the night before, do the ritual of getting things ready, right? The morning of the interview, wake up early, do some light exercise, probably go for a nice walk, just like get the mood running, get your body moving, get your brain firing, eat a healthy and nutritious breakfast to provide your body and brain energy to be responsive. I remember once I'd gone for an interview and I had no time to have breakfast. And when I reached there, I thought like, hey, there's a cafe downstairs. I'll probably pick up a good toasty and I'll get a coffee and, I'll eat while I'm on my way up to the interview. Turns out that day, the cafe was closed. They had some maintenance issue. The machines were not working. The cafe was closed. Now, I was on time for my interview, but I had no time to actually go and find another cafe. So I was like, okay, probably I'm skipping breakfast. Now, I went up for my interview. I'm waiting for the interviewer to, sort of call me in. And for some reason, he was late. He was like a minute or two late, but probably, by the time I got in, I was almost 15 minutes late for my scheduled interview because, he had a prior commitment. I kid you not, guys, during the interview, my stomach started growling. I was like, oh my God, I need to eat something right now. I think I'm probably going to faint. And that was the worst interview of my life. Right? Like it's a very funny story. And I remember coming out, I was crying and being like, oh my God, I will never not have a good nutritious breakfast before going for an interview. I'm going to ensure that I do that. Right? I couldn't answer. I was hungry. I kept thinking about food. I wanted a cup of coffee, and it was just the worst experience. Right? Do you want that? Like, do you, like, half my mind was on like, okay, my stomach is going to growl any moment, can he hear that? Like, when am I going to eat? When is this getting over? Like, I was almost this close of fainting. Right? So I don't want that experience to be something that you should have. So ensure you have a healthy, a nutritious breakfast before you go, something that you like, something that's going to keep you heavy and that will keep you satiated till the time you finish. Now, right before you get into an interview, whether your interview is in person or in remote, allow yourself some time to sit in silence, reflect on your notes. Okay, look at all the research that you've done, the four questions that we put up, the possible answers that you would want to give them. So take some time, reflect in silence, and then, calm your nerves. Take 3 deep breaths. Be a little mindful before you go. You don't want to just go and rattle things out. And I know it's nervous and I know it's daunting. It's easier said than done. But believe me, you guys, these methods are all tried and trusted. So before you get to an interview, sit down in a quiet space. Okay, whatever it is, take a deep breath, say good thoughts, say good things like, I'm going to do it. I've got this. This is my time to shine. This is my time to brag about the things that I've done. This job is going to be mine. All these lovely positive manifestations and affirmations, that's the word, right? So talk yourself with it. Do some self-positive talk. It is going to be so helpful. You will go and ace it. So highly suggest that you take these tips and use them before you go for an interview. Just doing a time check here to see if we are on time. Well, we are on time. So let's talk a little bit more on how you could present yourself. Look and feel your best, really. I can't tell you the number of times I have actually gone for a work presentation or for an interview where I have worn my favorite, my favorite dress or my favorite top, and I've done my hair. And I probably, I was nervous. I was nervous to my bones, but I was feeling so confident only because I looked and I felt my best in my favorite outfit. Right. So, a highly used tip is this: show that you are job ready by presenting a clean, polished, and put together look. If in doubt, always wear tailored business appropriate attires, probably like a power suit or a blazer. Even if your interview is online, dress for the occasion, right? You will feel and therefore present yourself really well. A polished presentation is more about just your clothes. It's a little more about, your clothes. It's also about your grooming, including your hair, makeup, and your nails. So these are some of the tips that you could, sort of use when you go for an interview. Always ensure that, you've got your clothes ironed, washed, cleaned before you sort of wear them for your interview. Know what you're wearing. Because when you're feeling good, when you're dressed well, when you have that, boss babe attitude on, automatically your interview will go fine. So some of the body language tips that you could do. Now, before we go into body language tips, some of the things that I would also want to talk about on the previous slide, I'm bringing this up again here, is when you're presenting yourself. Girls, all the girls on the call out here, ensure that, you go and do your facial, your eyebrows a couple of days before your interview. You don't want any rashes, any sensitivity to show up on your skin. So ensure that, your facial hair, your grooming is on point. Wash your hair a day or two before. If you want to iron, straighten your hair, do all of that the night before, or probably an hour or two before you go. Use serum to get your hair, in shape, rather than avoiding all the frizz. Nails. Now, a classic example, and I've purposely not trimmed my nails because I was waiting for this webinar to do. If you can see my nails, these two are long and this is short. This is a complete no. right? Ensure you cut your nails more often than not. And I have seen so many people who come for interviews where when I'm interviewing them, their nails are not trimmed, the nails are chipped off. There's nail paint on a few, the others don't have nail paint. That's not how you should present yourself. Believe me, an interviewer will look at all these finer details as you speak, right? So ensure you've got natural makeup on. It's no time for bling, no time for jazzy clothes, no time for stark colors, right? Have natural makeup. Nails should be evenly chipped, or if you're growing them, not too long, right? Because you're going for an interview, you're not going for a fashion parade, you're not going for a, for a date or a date rather. So ensure that your nails are chipped, your nails are well painted. If not, you can also keep them as is. Like, you don't need to always paint your nails. Keep neutral tones, keep it as is, but ensure that they're clean. Get a nice manicure before you go. Get your facial and eyebrows done a couple of days in advance so that there is no reaction that shows. For boys, maintain your facial hair, boys, right? So get a trim, get a haircut done, trim yourself up, whatever you want to wear. If you want to wear an aftershave to sort of maintain your beard, go for it and do that, right? So fresh breath, very important. And this is all for the girls and for the boys, both. Fresh breath always. So carry like a small little mint box. Okay, pop one in before you go, pop one in like a couple of hours before you go. Carry a bottle of water. You can always ask for water out there, so that's not a problem. But these are some of the things that that will sort of make a good impression. So neutral outfit tones, nothing stark, bright, blingy, nothing very jazzy. It's a complete no. So keep your documents in a nice folder. Probably get a nice folder. Keep all the documents that you need, so that the minute an HR asks you, you know exactly where you are, as opposed to digging in your bag trying to get things out. Now that just doesn't look good. So these are some of the very important points that you could do. And also, yes, the most important thing, body odor. Like I spoke about fresh breath. Always have fresh breath. Always smell good. So before you get into the room, don't forget to take out a perfume and just split. Just split a little on your wrists, on the back of your neck a little, and probably on your arms, right? So these are the points which basically, when you shake your hand, or sort of you go and hug your interviewer, just in case if the interviewer is really friendly. So always carry a good perfume, all right? Because you may tend to sweat while you're on the commute, or while you're traveling, or things like that. So ensure that a couple of seconds or minutes before you enter in, take out your favorite deo and just go sprit, and sort of feel good. Body language, things to do. Okay, one is remember your posture. So keep your head high. You can sit like this with your arms, on the table. Keep your head up and your shoulders and your back relaxed. Like, keep the power pose. Use your hands a little when you're speaking. So it's not like, okay, you're just sitting as a robot. No, you could use your hands, use little movements, right? You can move your hands here this way. I've done this, I've done that. So you can definitely use your hands as you speak. Thoughtful head nodding, like yes, when the interview is obviously talking to you, and smile throughout your entire conversation. Now, there are times where the interviewer will talk about, the things that the company has achieved, the things that the team has achieved. Don't just sit like this. You don't want to show a poker face. Smile and nod, like, oh, right, like, okay, yes. So do that, right? So that way, the interviewer will know that you're immersed in the conversation as much as he or she is, right? Things that's an absolute no and you do not do is, do not slouch. Don't sit like this. Don't sit like this. Okay, don't sit like this. No, that's not what you want to do. You're going to be sitting straight. You're not going to be slouching your shoulders or sitting like this. Like, you're not sitting with a friend, or like you're not watching a boring movie, correct? Don't cross your arms, or don't, don't sit like this. Just keep your hands on your lap, keep your hands like this on the table. Move the chair. You could always adjust the chair, and you could, the interviewer will give you some time for you to, like, sort of see if the seat's comfortable. Don't move your hands too much like this. If you want to move your hands, move it a little above your chest here, like this is fine, or probably closer to the table, right? So don't do this. This is wrong, right? Because then you're sort of like, you're sort of showing that your body language is a little too casual, a little too, like, oh, unprofessional. Don't do this. Don't shy away. Don't move away from the interviewer. straight, hands a little near your chest, and just very minor hand movement. So we'll just do a little recap of what we went through. So know your company, nail your personal pitch. We use the STAR method for answering questions. We want to look and feel our best. Don't forget to smile. Okay, so that's the best thing that you could do. Body language speaks louder than words, and make it conversational. Make it conversational. Like if you read a LinkedIn post or something of that sort that the hiring manager or the recruiter or anybody who's interviewing you has put up, ask them questions about it. So make it conversational, make it a two-way street. It should not be that they're just interviewing you and you get up and go. They would also think like, oh, this person's boring, and you're not a boring person. So make it conversational. Let them also talk to you about it. So ask them questions. Okay, now, any questions? Any questions at all? This is a time that you could, sort of ask me anything that you want to. I am still trying to figure out how I can make this available for everyone. Okay, probably just try now, guys. Maybe the chat section is enabled. I'm just going to quickly share an emoji because this is how I feel. Any questions at all? There are a good 11 of you on this call. I know that all of you came here with the sole purpose of acing your interviews, and you all have a lot of questions and you all have a lot that you all want to talk about. So this is a nicer time, and the best time rather, to ask me any questions. Nothing? Nothing at all? Are we good? Can you guys give me a thumbs up if you all have no questions? Any one of you? That's fine. Are we good? Should I move on, guys? Are we good? All right. Okay, so what is the average time frame for when you submit your application to receiving an interview invitation? I would say anytime really from 3 to 6 weeks. Or right now I know it is too long, it's almost like a month, but really it depends from company to company, right? So what you do is when you send an application and it's been more than 2 weeks that you've not heard from them, it's always good to follow up. Hey, Andrew, I sent you my application on the 3rd of November. Haven't heard anything from you yet. Just thought I'll follow up. Right? Simple. Right? So it's good to keep a time frame between 3 to 3 weeks. 3 weeks is max because they're also probably not started the process, and they're still shortlisting candidates. So keep that average time frame in mind, but it's always good to follow up. Plus also it depends from company to company. Like if the role is urgent and they really need people, the time frame is anyway between 1 to 2 weeks. But generally I have seen the trend like it goes a little more than 3 weeks. So that's the average time frame that you can expect. We do have another question. I'm unable to see. In the interview, the interviewers are expected us to be professional or relaxed and friendly. I absolutely love this question. I don't know, it's anonymous, but please put your name in because so that I could address you with. Well, it's a mix of both, right? You have to be professional because they're not your friend. You're not in a very friendly atmosphere. So begin with being professional, especially when you're talking about the job that you've done or the course that you've studied or the volunteering activities that you've undertaken. So be professional, but be relaxed. You can be friendly at the end of the interview. Once everything is done, probably you could be like, if you don't mind, is it okay if I add you on LinkedIn? Because I feel like, I would like to stay in touch with you. And I feel like there are amazing connections that you and me could build in future. Right. So these are some of the things that you could do. You obviously can't be relaxed and friendly all the time because, like I said, hey, you're up there for a job. It is a professional setting in the end. but have a mix of both. I would say 95% professional, and probably 5% of it could be a little relaxed, a little friendly, because also you want to show the opposite person that you're approachable, you're warm, you could be a lovely addition to the team, you could be a lovely team player. So it should be a mix and match of everything. So it's really how you want to portray yourself. Like I said, the personal pitch, that's where it comes across as a professional, yet a lovely person to talk to. Like in my personal pitch, I said that I love challenges, but I also love a strong almond latte, right? So I'm being professional, but I'm also being like, hey, I love my coffee. I hope that helps. If you do not know the answer to the interviewer's question, what would you say is the best thing to say? Beautiful, Mandisa, love the question. So if you do not really know the answer to the question, you could obviously be polite and say that I'm sorry, I don't really have the answer for the question that you're asking me right now. But I think XYZ. For example, say if the interviewer would ask me, and I'm a person with a marketing profession, and the interviewer would ask me, what do you think are the social media trends for 2024? And I really don't know. I mean, I don't know. I haven't done my research, or probably I simply don't know whether I've done my research or not. I simply don't know. I could be like, hey, I'm sorry, Andrew. I'm just taking an example of Andrew being my interviewer. So I'll be like, hey, Andrew, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I don't have the answers to your question at the moment. But I feel that since the video content on Instagram is highly looked up and the algorithm has changed, that would be a future. And I would see a lot of brands using video content to reach their target audience. So politely say that you don't know, don't fake it. All right. Because if you're lying, if you're faking it, obviously the interviewer would know that you're doing so. Right. So you don't want to create that impression as well. So don't fake it. But it is polite to say that I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to your question at the moment. Just probably give a point of view, like what you feel could be it. And if you feel that even that is wrong, you could be like, I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure, but I think this is, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So when you say that, the opposite person knows that, okay, you love feedback, you can take feedback, you're ready to accept the fact that you don't know it and you can be wrong. So ensure that you put it politely, you put it in a nicer manner. And also, if you don't really know the answer, when you say that, okay, I don't know the answer, would you mind letting me know, or would you mind giving me an advice on that, or would you mind telling me what the right answer is so that I know, right? So ask them. Okay. I hope that was helpful. What if you newly arrived in the country and you have volunteer experiences than professional experience? Well, you can talk about that, of course. You could, in fact, even talk about that in your personal pitch. Like, I have volunteered at the Rotary clubs in Australia to do this or to do that. So talk about it, because even when you do a volunteering experience, find what is that key takeaway, why you did that experience, what drove you to it. You just didn't do it just for the heck of it, right? There has to be some meaning for why you went and did it. So go find that motive behind it. And what was your takeaway? What did you feel after doing it? Did you feel happy? Did you feel like you want to do it more? Did you learn something from it? Did you make good connections? Did you make good friends? Right? So talk about it. Anything that you do has always added value to someone's life. It has added value to your life. It could be something that the interviewer didn't know all about. So talk about it if you've got no professional experience, and that's absolutely fine. What if you receive a job offer, but it is not your first choice? Would you just go for it or wait to hear from other companies? If you would wait, what is the best way to respond? Now, it's a little tricky one, Karima, because honestly, it depends on, you rather. Like, say, for example, if you receive a job offer, it's not your first choice, but you don't have anything in your pipeline, it's good to take it, right? Because, any job offer is a good offer. It's not your first choice, but you've applied for it for some reason, right? I mean, if it wasn't something that you would like doing, you wouldn't have applied for it at all. So in case if you got it, it's because somewhere you wanted it, and that's why you applied for it. So take it. It's always good to take it rather than just letting it go, unless you are absolutely 100% sure that there is something in the pipeline waiting for you. Then it's probably okay to say no. But in case if you get it, it's obviously good to take it. And then you can obviously, like, then resign, and then probably be like, I'm sorry, but, I've got something else which is better. I'll probably take that. Another important tip is, say you've got one job and then you're waiting for the other comes, and this pay is less than what you've got here. At least that way it will work, right? It's not your first choice, but the pay is better than what the second option is. Or else you could match up, say that, hey, I've got an offer from this is what they're giving me. Can you match up to this? Can you match up the title to this? Can you match up the designation to it? So it's a game basically to play. So be very careful about it. I would 100% say. But I would definitely take it. If I were you, I would 100% take it till I hear from other companies, right? Because what if you don't hear from them? God forbid you don't hear and you lose out on what you've already got. That's simply not going to sit well with you. So it's always good to take it. And if you would wait, what is the best way to respond? Like I said, I wouldn't wait, but in case if you would really want to wait, probably just politely let them know that you're just not interested in the offer and give them the reason. I mean, probably it could be like, hey, the pay is not competitive enough, or I'm sorry, I showed interest, but I would like to pass this offer. But please let them know so that they could go and, reach out to anybody else who's also interested. What if they ask you, okay, sorry, what if they ask you what your strategy for dealing with problems that the specific position would have? That's more futuristic, but what if you don't have a lot of past examples? Is it acceptable to respond by asking them what their pain points are? I'm not quite sure I've understood your question really well, but what if they ask you what your strategy for dealing with problems are? Well, to be honest, really, like whatever your strategy is in terms of how you solve the problems, you can speak about it. What if you don't have a lot of examples? Well, it's fine if you don't have a lot of examples. That's absolutely fine. You could talk about what you would do, right? Talk about what you would do if you were in a situation and you were in a position where you have to strategically solve an issue. What would you do? Use the star method. Okay, talk about the situation. See, guys, this is where you use the star method. Now you see how all of this is tying together and it's actually looking so beautiful. So you use the star method. You talk about a situation, talk about the task in hand, the action, and the result. So you could talk about, identify ways how you would solve the problem, step into the shoes of the person solving the problem or the person actually going through the problem, right? So it's fine for you to not give examples if you don't have too many. That's absolutely possible, fine. And in fact, don't give too many examples. You don't want to be the one who's be only talking about, oh, I solved this, I solved this, I solved. No, just take one. Simple, just take one, stick to the basics, keep it short and simple, and just talk about it. But talk about it so much that no, like the problem in and out, and nobody can then sort of defend you by any way. Is it acceptable to respond by asking what their pain points are? Well, it's okay. I mean, you can sort of ask, but you can possibly be like, hey, this is my take on how I could solve the problem. Correct me if you think we could do this any other way. Simple. Great insights. Thank you. And we always say practice makes perfect, but how can we practice with mock interviews? Are there any organizations you could suggest that provide the service for free if possible? Yes. Now you can look up Rotary District 9800. I'm just going to put that up here. Rotary District 9800. Some of these clubs do mock interviews, right? But it is only on a selected time and certain time frame. It's not that it's not available for everybody all the time and any given time of the day. One of the most important things, and now when I started, this is what I did, right? So you're basically living with someone. You're living with your flatmate or your batchmate, or you have your partner with you, your mom, your dad. Make them be the interviewer, right? This is the best way to do it. Make them be the interviewer. Let them sit in front of you. You sit in front of them and let them ask you questions. Like, say, for example, if they are the recruiting manager at Intern Match, or if they are the recruiting manager at, say, any other place, Woolies, Coles, wherever you're going for an interview. If they are the recruiting manager, what are the questions that they would ask them? Do not go prepared. Ask them to ask you anything. Ask them to ask you anything. Be in a setting where it is actually like you are on an interview. Now you could probably sit on, on a couch and do it, or you can sit in your dining room, but I would highly suggest to keep it professional. Sit in front of each other with a table in the middle, like probably on a dining table, or even if you want to do it with your friend, on a phone call or a video call, just do it. Call up your friend and be like, hey, can we do a mock interview? Do that, right? You will be surprised to see the kind of answers you give and the kind of questions they ask you, right? You could even be like, okay, these are the 5 questions that I want you to ask me. Ask me in any random order, okay, so that you're surprised, right? You're surprised because in the end, it's not the same person talking to you, it's somebody else, and you will not know what they're going to ask you. So do that. So that is the best way to do mock interviews. Don't highly rely on Rotary because they don't have it all the time, but use your resources, use the people in your house, use your friends, your family members, anybody for that matter. And I asked them to do this. One of my favorite examples is the thing that a teacher of mine told me when I was in school, right? Like, practice in front of a mirror, right? You be the interviewer and you be the interviewee. Practice in front of the mirror. Go take a piece of paper, like I've got one here, for example, stand in front of the mirror and recite it. Recite your personal speech, recite your answers that you want to give, recite the kind of, imaginary questions that they're going to throw at you. That is the most awesome time to sort of practice it because you will feel so confident. Believe me or not, I was really surprised when that trick worked for me. I was like, oh my God, this actually worked. I was so confident because I looked at myself in front of the mirror and I kept practicing it, and I just over time became better. Right. So, 2 tricks, these are the 2 best ways to sort of do a mock interview. Find somebody who can do it for you and practice in front of the mirror. I hope that was helpful.